Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is SARI. Here I want to present my paper entitled State Responsibility for Space Debris, Case Study Incident of Chinese Space Waste with Russian Satellites. To begin with the background of the case, China and Russia were the two launch nations involved in a low Earth orbit collision incident in January 2013. On January 22nd, the Russian satellite Blitz collided with the remaining Chinese weather satellite Feng 1C, which is a meteorological satellite belonging to the United States. China was intentionally blown up in 2007 on a mission, an anti-satellite demonstration known as the Chinese ASAT test, which was carried out by the Chinese military. According to Space, as a result of the incident, Blitz, which was originally used as a target in study on laser conducted by the International Laser Ranging Service, is now unable to function properly. Blitz was originally moving stable with high speed and fixed orbit. However, since colliding with the debris from the Feng 1C satellite, the Blitz has changed its orbit and refocused around the Earth in the uncertain direction. The Feng 1C satellite's debris that crashed into Blitz at the end of January 2013 was just one of thousands of satellite debris that was destroyed in 2007. Next, we'll discuss about the principle applicable to China as a launching state whose space debris is harming Russia. In Article 6 of the Space Treaty 1967, it is stated that each country is internationally responsible for activities carried out by that country. This can be related to the incident that occurred in space involving China and Russia. In this incident, it can be argued neither Russia nor China can be escape international responsibility. The basic principle of international responsibility is stated in Article 2 and Article 3 of the 1972 Convention on International Liability for Damage Caused by Space Objects. The principle in Article 2 describes the principle of absolute liability, whereby the launching state is absolutely responsible for damage caused by celestial bodies. The climate state is the state that harmed that does not need to prove the guilt of the launching state so that the launching state is responsible. The climate state only needs to notify the damage caused by the celestial body belonging to launch state. The second principle in Article 3 of the Convention of International Liability for Damage Caused by Space Object 1972 is responsibility based on fault. The principle of liability on the basis of this fault requires a climate state to prove the guilt caused by the launching state. The fault can be in the form of damage, as is the principle is absolutely liability. However, the climate state is required to first prove the guilt of launching state. It can be concluded the principle of the responsibility on the basis of the guilt can apply to climate state. A country can also participate in utilizing other space. In the other words, the climate country is the launching country that launched its celestial body, and its celestial body is damaged by the celestial body belonging to another country, and the damage occurs not on the Earth's surface. So the principle of responsibility based on fault is the most appropriate principle that can be implemented in the Chinese and Russia celestial collision incident, because this incident occurred because two celestial bodies that are in space, not on the Earth's surface. Space debris from the Feng-1 explosion in the form of debris spread in space and rotated in the Earth's orbit and is very dangerous for other celestial bodies. The debris from the Feng-1 explosion can harm other celestial bodies because they can be collided with each other, as happened with WITS. Furthermore, we'll discuss about the form of liability that Russia can claim against China for satellite collusion incident under the 1972 Convention on International Liability for Damage Caused by Space Objects. In its role as a climate state, Russia can use the evidence obtained by CSSI and ask China to fulfill its international responsibility for its space debris. The international responsibility demanded by Russia against China is based on Article 3 on the Convention on International Liability for Damage Caused by Space Objects 1972, which states that the guilt of the launching site must first be proven if it's occurred other than on the Earth's surface. Feng-1 is a meteorological satellite launch on behalf of China. However, there is no specific reason for the denotation of Feng-1 carried out by the Chinese military in 2007. It can be said that the Feng-1 denotation was a deliberate act by the Chinese military, which means it was carried out on behalf of the Chinese state because Chinese military is part of Chinese government. In fact, the denotation for any reason at the anti-satellite demonstration known as the Chinese SATS is considered to have been known by China as a launching country, which can have a tremendous impact in space. China is considered a subject of international law. That is, China, as independent and sovereign country, knows its country status as a launching country and knows the legal basis used in its space exploration activity. Thus, China cannot be considered to neglect of the consequence of the Feng-1 citation. In addition, China is one of the countries that ratified the two conventions, namely the Treaty on Principle Governing the Activity of State in the exploration and use of outer space, including the moon and other celestial body, and the Convention on International Liability for Damage Caused by the Space Object. Russia has been able to prove that China is guilty under Article 3 of the Convention on International Liability for Damage Caused by Space Object 1972. So China is obligated to fulfill its international responsibility to provide compensation for the damage caused by its space debris. Russia has the right to receive compensation, and this can be found in the convention, namely in Article 8, Paragraph 1 of the Convention on International Liability for Damage Caused by Space Object 1972, which reads, the state which suffered damage or whose natural or juridical person suffer damage may present to a launching state a claim for compensation for such damage. Based on the article, it can be concluded that a country that suffers loss or damage caused by a celestial object of launching country can file a claim for compensation to the launching country. And the conclusion that can be drawn from this discussion is that Russia can sue and seek compensation from China by basing its claim on Article 3 of the Convention on International Liability for Damage Caused by Space Object 1972, which is the basis for the principle of liability based on fault. Russia already has evidence of China's misconduct in its anti-satellite demonstration mission, which had a disastrous effect that resulted in the Blitz satellite no longer functioning normally. In addition, Russia can carry out its demand by using the excuse that China has intentionally violated the provision of the Space Use Convention, namely the 1967 Space Treaty, considering that the convention has explained that every launching country that uses and explores outer space has an interest in maintaining international peace and security. Uh, so that's all from me. Thank you for all your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.